did. Hi, April.
Hi, April.
Hi, Jan. Hi, Tibby. Brandy. Fit Angel, CYNT. Hi, Sherry. Rochelle.
Everybody, just so you know, hi, and smash the like buttons, please, and subscribe. You need to subscribe with the notifications on the bell. Ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding.
Okay. Hi, Jill, Graciela, Patty and Jack, Mama Four Girls. Hi, GB, you're late. Angie, Hetty, what is that noise?
Hey, it's early. I can watch.
Oh, yay, Ivy Land said, yeah.
It's early?
It's early, yeah, because I usually go on a little later. But I'm not, yeah, a little early tonight.
I thought
Mimi.
you meant like it's like 9 o'clock, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're on vacation. He's on vacation, so nobody has to call anybody. They're on vacation until Thursday.
Don't call anybody, don't worry. I have tomorrow, and I think next day I go to school. So tomorrow, it's going to be a bad day for me tomorrow.
Why? Why is it going to
No,
be?
not tomorrow, the next day after tomorrow, because
Why? Because you have to go to bed early?
I don't like to go to school.
You like
I have to go to school on the day after tomorrow. I think it is.
So now I've lost everybody's name. Muka77, Sensible Crime. They call me Rose.
You gotta figure out the true crime. Did Chris Watts is he innocent or is he what is it?
Guilty?
Guilty. Don't worry, I know my words.
Don't call anybody. Carrie Lynn, Randy.
The craziest nut in the world.
Is it Peanut?
It's a peanut. You can't see it. Why can't they see it?
Because the lights, I don't know, it
Stupid
drowns
light.
everything out.
I'm gonna go change it.
Whisper to me.
Somebody's
GB.
slapping me. There's a slapper over there.
Oh, stop. Jan, I got you, Jan, Tracy, Molly, Sunny C. Maybe Miss
What's
Molly
up,
Chickadee.
guys? Welcome back to the video. I'll make my own video. How you doing? It's me.
Okay. All right, I think I hear
Watch my mom's channel.
Evie, Kathy, Tessa,
I'm just
Amanda,
gonna put it in here. There.
Randy Brown. You binge watched the McNabb trial today? Really? You didn't watch the Jones trial today, April?
No, it's not working.
I was
That's
watching the
pretty
Jones
hard.
trial today. It's it's a lot of hours to. I can't even imagine. It's quite a commitment, and with all the breaks they take, and you don't know.
I was trying to fight someone.
I don't know how many more people. They still haven't had Tim Senior on the stand. Are we going to go through everyone in Intel that was on his team? Let's see here. I don't know. Seaglass, hi. Joe Smo, hi. Hi, Jan. And Joe Callie, hello. Rick, hello. VRB Doll, hi. Mimi, hi. Lori. You watched the Jones trial until they had breaks. Oh, and then you flipped to the midnight. Okay. You felt sorry for his manager, the one who sat on the sidewalk and cried? Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot. They had a lot of people on, and I guess why did they just take that counselor on to state her name and that she treated the children and then, okay, you're done. So, wow. Okay, I think my first thing was here. You felt bad for his manager too. And the one guy with the suspenders, do you think he was just really nervous? I thought he was going to have a heart attack at first. When he sat down, he was like, and then I said, I think he has a nervous tic because he was like this, right? And then after a while, I didn't see him do it as much. So I don't know if he was really nervous or what was going on. He was really nervous, right, JS? Yeah. I didn't think he was going to be okay on the stand when he kept touching something like under his chest, and he was really nervous. Okay. The Intel guys, because they're very introverted, as he said, so it must have been like absolutely terrifying to be testifying on camera, right? Which guy is BBT saying was ridiculous with the poor memory? The neuro fraud? Oh, that guy. That was ridiculous. The CPS lady. Yes. Was that the... No, wait. Hold on. Was that the last part? Was she the last one? Night gone drinking. No, she wasn't the last one. The Intel guys were after her. Yeah, you scared me for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute, where am I? Yeah, the roommate, right. Well, he had two roommates on there, but it was the second one. Oh, the last part you watched, Molly Chickadee. Gotcha. Hi, Lethal Lolita. You thought the game herbalist that saw the kids might have spoke, but her testimony was cut off. It seemed like it kind of cut weird. Oh, she was... yeah, I got you now, Molly Chickadee. We're talking about the Jones trial. Maggie. Hi, Birdie. Hi, Karen. Hi, Linda. Hi, Kelly Kel. Hi, C. Hi, Carla. Hi, Maribel. Hi, D90. Hi, Getchamuka 77, I think. You're not nice? Oh, hi, I'm not nice. Okay, so... Anna, hello. Little Dove, hello. Tessa, hi. Laughing Lori, hello. Hi, Katrina. Pure Country, hello. Snoop Medic, hi. Brandy, hello. Okay, so let's go through this. What we had the neuropharmacologist on there, right? Which that was ridiculous. And I'm telling you, that probably went over half of the jury's heads. Okay, because they spent the first half going over his education and most of his training. He was British, okay, and then I think the only U.S. school he was in Memphis, Tennessee. So they went through all of that, and then he just starts talking about the Geodon and the Chantix and just about everything. Well, this and the synthetic marijuana and everything this can do, and if you have an underlying psychological condition, it can exacerbate it, and even if you come off of it, the underlying psychological issue or the mental issues could be worse, until he's cross-examined, and then you find out he doesn't even have the medical records he's supposed to have. He doesn't even know the dosage of medications Tim was on. He didn't even know all the medications he was on. He didn't even know that that Tim never had a diagnosis of the underlying mental issue. So I think they just blew that, whatever that was, out of there. Then she asks how much it was for him to come down there, and he's explaining how much money he was charging. And yeah, that, I'm telling you, what he said flew over the jury's heads, and what the prosecution, when they cross-examined him, just took that completely away. So let's see. Then after we had him, I'm going to. I think I don't know my notes. I have so many notes. Okay. So yeah, he went on with the Chantix, the starter packs, and they pulled out the pack, so he still has the pills in here. Or what would, it was a little bit Perry Mason stuff. Okay. The 80 milligrams, the maximum dose, but then no, then he's saying he's taking that 4 times a day. She's saying, do you think 320 milligrams? He couldn't find that. The prosecution, gives them a duplicate report because he doesn't have his report. It was crazy. I have notes on this like crazy. The FDA's recommended max dose is 80 milligrams. Okay, but he used 4 times 80 milligrams a day. He was stumbling. He couldn't answer questions. He didn't have the prior documentation. Okay, let's see what else he had here. She was stumping the doctor, so she claimed, she said he has no psychological deficits regarding anything. Then, and the doctor didn't you get his report that he didn't have any? It was just back and forth, back and forth. Then when he got on the Chantix, the Chantix can cause homicidal thoughts. It can, react. It could cause somebody with underlying, again, mental. She kept going back. He didn't have any. It was just crazy. Okay. I don't know why I took so many notes on this. And she said, isn't it right? There's no underlying issues found? Correct. Okay. But if they did, it didn't make any sense. Then they went on, well, how was he able to lie and conceal when he was found? Do you know that he was lying and concealing? He said the car smelled like garbage. Why did he lie? Okay, why was he trying to conceal the fact that the children were in there? Why was he trying to lie to law enforcement? Okay, so yeah, I don't think anything, that didn't help the defense in one instance. You must have misunderstood. Just because he didn't have a diagnosis doesn't mean he didn't have them. No, but he was examined and said not to have them. The neuropharmacologist was nothing but an overpaid professional witness. Yes. He doesn't lie. He doesn't lie. He does not have kids. He already killed them. Oh, right. Right. That was the other thing. He didn't have kids, and he had 3 kids, and the kids were in South Carolina. So that was all. Yeah, that was the whole thing there. And then $275 an hour, and then his travel time, and he kept going on. How many hours did you bill them for? I don't know. It must have been pretty expensive. You think it was like $5,000? Yeah, at least. Okay, and then they go into, then they brought down the CPS worker, right? So the caseworker, she said she is an investigator. She had a report. It was called by someone in the school because there were marks on Nathan's neck, okay? And there were marks on his forearms. So they called, the DSS came to the school. They didn't have to alert Tim that they were coming, so the kids were surprised, and they said that they pulled Nathan out. Or who was it? Excuse me, it was Elias, right? Hold on one second. That had this stuff on his neck. Which one was it? She said his name. Where's the one? I know it was Nathan because Nathan supposedly destroyed the track the train track that Tim had set up with Elias. And then they took Mira out of class, and Mira said that Tim spanked him or something. But then when Tim was saying what he did, he said he jerked him up by the neck, and that's how he got the marks on his neck. Not that he tried to strangle him, but Nathan had told the teacher, I think he made a strangling motion. Okay, and this worker was like all over the place, but like she didn't read her notes properly until they gave her the report to read. She was really like pushing it down to mean nothing until she read the reports. And then you were hearing that he shoved him in the wall and other things like that. So yeah, jerked him up in the neck, right? So no, I think no, the back of the shirt. Sorry. You know, he just means like he was trying to downplay it, like he just picked him up, like stand up like that. But that wasn't it. Because then when he was reading the report, then he grabbed him by the neck, he threw him into the wall and all that other stuff. But she wasn't saying that at first, okay? So that was the first time they were out, and that was back in May. Okay, and it was a high priority, 2 hours. They had to get there in 2 hours. Then she went back with him to the house to meet him there and talked with him. That's when he gave her that story. And then she looked at the house, and the house was cluttered, and then they made a safety plan, okay? So he was not allowed to use any corporal punishment on the kids. But they felt she went with 2 sheriff's deputies, and no one felt the kids needed to be removed as long as they had a safety plan. And they put that safety plan in place. No horseplay. He wasn't allowed to wrestle with them. And they would leave the kids in the home, okay? And that was in May. And then they followed up with him. And then that case, now this sounds really silly. They said, well, that case was closed and unfounded. Oh, yeah, I know, but that was a typo. That was a typo in there. And so she said it was closed, but it was found that there could be substantial physical abuse possible, but there was no further risk to the children, is what they said, because they had that safety plan in place. So that's what it was supposed to be, even though it was written that it was closed and unfounded. It was supposed to be case was closed and founded, okay? So then they said, could Mira and Nathan have been making these claims so that something would get back to their mother? Because on one of the visits, the next one, I believe it was now when it was reported that Tim was only buying them a 20-piece chicken McNugget for all the kids. And same case and that Tim beat Elias this time. That's what it was said. And that he bought all the kids a 20-piece McNugget. Same case worker went there with the 2 deputies from the Lexington County Sheriff's Office. And so they took pictures. They went to the babysitter. The kids were at the babysitter next door. They let the deputy stay with Tim. They went next door. They took pictures. They didn't notice anything on the kids except Elias had a big thing on his, like by his eye, which they said came from the doorknob because he was playing with Mira. And they said, oh, that's, yeah, the excuse me, the babysitter said that was true. And it's fine. So they just said, okay, yeah, that's a doorknob injury. That's not abuse. And they couldn't find any other things, but that they also heard that they had just gotten back from Disney, and supposedly that Tim had spanked the 2-year-old Gabriel and Elias. Now, he wasn't supposed to be using any of this, but they don't say that, okay, well, he abandoned the safety plan, right? I don't understand why that was not addressed, that he didn't follow the safety plan, okay? And let's see here. They said that that they think he took the doctor to the child, and that the injury to the eye looked like it had been doctored up. Okay, so that was it. They didn't ask for the doctor's report. They didn't ask for proof of that. Not that she said. Okay, and then they noticed there was I guess, a very severe diaper rash on the baby for it to be noted. And the babysitter's saying, well, that's just because he's putting cheap diapers on her. Okay. So they showed pictures in the court, okay, of the children's front, back. They didn't show the diaper rash in the court or anything like that. And he believes, Tim said, he thinks the person that called in this report was the disgruntled ex-babysitter. Because this babysitter was Christine. And they said, did they have any bruising? No. You took photos of the house? Yes. Okay, so yet that was founded, okay, for physical abuse because of the deaths days later. So that's how that case ended, because they can't close it for a certain number of days. Well, the kids were all murdered before then, so that's how that case ended. And then there was one time that she went out when where's the in 2011, I forgot this part. There was a report that Tim left tools all over and in the living area, and it was a danger, and it's actually called neglect. So they said that they were remodeling and the case was closed, but it was just substantiated for neglect because of the tools that Tim had out all over the place where the kids could get them. And I don't know who called that in. So let's see if there was anything else on that. When they asked her about the 20-piece chicken McNuggets, they said, well, what do you think about that? And she just said something like, well, that's food. And they looked in Tim's refrigerator and freezer. He had like nothing in there. Okay. Then there was a cross examination, and they asked her, well, there were bruises to the neck of Nathan, right? And there were marks on his forearms, correct? And you took Mira out of class. They had no idea that, you were coming in. So the bruises were found. And that's when she made her read the report and say that there was a bruise around the neck. There was a fingerprint of the thumbs. She wasn't saying any of this when the defense was questioning her. That he had taken Nathan and put him up against pushed him into the wall. And then that the house was clean, but it cluttered. He had a lot of clothes around. Okay, and then the next day, they spoke to, the next day they went out there again after, that's when they left him in there with the safety plan. But then the next day they went there to the school, and Nathan was very reserved. He was afraid to talk, and then that case, again, she reiterated, was founded. They were said to have, this is where it gets very confusing. They were said to be at substantial risk for physical abuse, but it was a typo, and the case was closed and unfounded, even though she said it should be closed and founded for substantial risk of physical abuse, and there was no further services or anything needed because of that safety plan that they put in effect there. And then they went again about the babysitter thing, and she just said, oh, it was Gabe too, and it was Nathan, that after Disney World or at Disney World or on the way somewhere about Disney World, that supposedly he spanked them. Well, he went against the safety plan, but nobody said anything about that. Tim was surprised by the visit. They needed to see the kids. And then Christine Elke had the kids, where they appeared fine, except for the thing on Ilias's eye and the diaper rash. So he was told now his safety plan they didn't say like it was tacked on to that one, and there was nothing about corporal punishment or anything. It was just that he was going to remove excess clothing, he was going to clean, and did he have something else? He's going to clean, and he was going to go see the pediatrician about getting something for the diaper rash. Okay, and then I guess no horseplay. Yeah, I don't know, Amanda. I guess they want an arm and leg hanging off before they claim abuse. Happens, unfortunately. No assessment or oversight. What good does it do? Okay. And then, let's see. Then they brought this Kimberly counselor on there. I think they just had a... Did you see Ilias and Mira in 2013? Yes, I did. Okay, you can step off. Okay. Then they call Brendan, who went to Mississippi State with Tim, right? And worked at Intel with Tim. So they said that, Tim wrote a note when this guy got on the stand. Jimmy noticed this. And he handed it to his lawyer, like about the guy, like he was saying something about this guy. So yeah, but he's insane, right? So they said, what were the positions that you both applied for from, after Mississippi State? He said, I think they were validation engineers or component engineers. So he said, well, they were competitive positions, right? And he said, yes. And Tim accepted the offer with Intel first, but Brendan actually got a place in South Carolina first. So Tim lived with Brendan while he was looking for a place of his own. And that was in the summer of 2011. So they said, what was he like in the apartment? Well, he's a very talkative guy. And that's the big thing, because all of the engineers here, he said, are normally introverts, and that is true. So it was very, he stood out because he was very talkative. He could go up to anyone and, have a conversation. But what bothered Brendan is that he was very radical in his opinions, and you couldn't convince him otherwise. If he had his mindset on something, he was very closed-minded, and he was a hardhead, they said. So what were his thoughts? Well, he had a lot of religious thoughts, and they were of the Pentecostal Old Testament kind, okay? And so he would talk about that, and he would say things like he almost slipped on the sidewalk, and Jesus reached out and grabbed him before he hit the sidewalk. Okay? But then he said he was extremely radical, so radical in his thoughts that this guy didn't want to bring his new girlfriend, who's now his wife, by because of the way Tim was, and he didn't want his new girlfriend to think that he thought that way. So he was never open to different views, right? Did you know about his wife and kids? Yes. What do you know about Amber? He cared for Amber a lot, but he didn't talk much about his kids. This is what Brendan says. Amber, let's see. He found a trailer for Amber, that trailer, and she did not want to live there. He said that Tim was just like, too bad, it's tough luck, because he believed as the male in this, marriage, he was the head of the household, he will make all decisions, and that's through his religious views, so it didn't matter what she wanted, it wasn't an issue. And June 6, 2011, they started the same day at Intel, and he had more problems with logical progression through things than he did of anything that he learned about in a textbook or that followed, if he had to extrapolate, if he had to figure out how to connect the dots himself and find a way to get there, it was harder for him than looking at something that is black and white that he learned how to do in a textbook, and then it was just clear, okay? So let's see. Tim said he needed to talk to Brendan, that he found his wife cheated on him with a neighbor. He was distraught. So he started to use his religion about that, and he was looking for a place to stay while figuring things out. So this guy said you could sleep on the couch, but this is when he didn't want his girlfriend to talk to him the second time around, because he had a new girlfriend and he didn't want her to hear Tim's views. So let's see here. His abrupt views. He didn't want to blow it with the new girlfriend, now wife. He felt that cheating, was a bad role model for his kids, and he wanted a stable home. They said, did he ever age? No. Did he talk about meds? Yes. Was he acting funny? And he said that he was on meds because he had a vasectomy. And so this guy said, I never had a vasectomy, so I don't know if you have to be on meds after a vasectomy. But he said that's why he was taking meds, because of his vasectomy. The last straw, what was the last straw? He said that they went out drinking, okay, and that Tim went out drinking. He came back and he was throwing up all over the place because he got drunk. And he threw up all over the wall of his apartment. And so when Brendan went out in the morning, he saw it all over the place, and he told Tim, you better start looking for another place because I can't have this. And he said that Tim was very understanding. Tim took it really well. And they said, well, did he ever show you gratitude for giving him this place? And he said, yeah. He offered to take me to Wendy's. So he said, Wendy's? That's where he offered to take you? And what did you think about that? And he said, well, it was, Tim was known to be very cheap, okay? And then the other guy said that a lot of them are very cheap, so they didn't think too much of it. So they went to Wendy's, and they were sitting down, and 3 girls walked in, and Tim apparently, now this doesn't fit anywhere with the religious Pentecostal teachings that he's supposed to have, the literal interpretation of the Bible, because he says to Brendan, look at those girls. And then when they're across the restaurant, he barks at them 3 times. And now that was the last straw for Brendan. He's like, this is it. This guy is not hanging out with this guy anymore. Then they ask him, do you ever remember him telling you he hears voices? No. Do you ever remember him talking about his mother? No. Do you remember him saying that the children were out to get him? No. Now the defense is asking every person about this. So what I think they're going to do is, see, he wasn't insane then. You see, it was after he started smoking that stuff, or whatever they're going to say, that caused him to go insane, then he started hearing the voices, right? I don't know why he would bark at them. I thought that was, does that mean like an actual bark at them? What is that? I have no idea. So, then let's see. After that, the cross-examination, so they said, the prosecution said, did he ever tell you about his bad past? His younger years? Nope. Okay, so he skipped all of that, what he did, his time in prison and everything else. But they said in 2014, he got a promotion in spite of how he changed there at Intel, right? So, yes, he did. And were you surprised that he killed the kids? Yes. Okay. But he had no, noticeable behavior that Brendan was going to report to management, and then there was nothing further on that. Then they get the next guy, which is Bryce Mankowski, and he worked for 2.5 years on the same team. That other guy was not on the same team. This guy is on the same team. Personal, he knew he had a wife and 5 kids, but he never met them. Oh, this other guy, Brendan, he met the whole family. I forgot to say that, in Walmart. Yes. And in Walmart, Tim came flying over to him. He said, he has like a one-track mind, Brendan does. He's going to get his stuff and get out of there. And this guy's like, hey, dude, hey, man, whatever. And so he introduced him to Amber, and he introduced him to the kids. So, but it sounds like Brendan wanted nothing to do with him. And I forgot to tell you that when the social worker went back the second time, the second time to Tim's house, Tim was there with cupcakes. It was Mira's birthday. And so he was giving the kids cupcakes. He had a baby on his hip. And one of the kids was talking to Amber on the phone, or Tim was talking to her on the phone. And then they gave the phone to the social worker, but they didn't elaborate with what was said, anything that was said to Amber there. Forgot that part of it. Okay, so we got Bryce on the stand now. They ask him, let's see, the same thing. They do it first. Did he talk about his mother? No. Did he talk about hearing voices? No. Did he talk about that the kids were out to get him? No. Okay, what would you notice about him? What was his behavior like at work? He was very talkative. Again, this guy says that's very unusual. Many engineers are shy and introverts. Tim's behavior was unique. Okay, friends, they didn't know him to have any friends. He kept to himself. He talked a lot at work, and they said Kevin McKinney was probably the one he did the most with. Lunch, they would leave the building to play cards called Big Two and have lunch. And they would enjoy that, but Tim never came and never participated in that. His state of mind was intense about beliefs. He tried to make you agree. He was difficult at times. Prior to killing, Tim started to get amped up. He was agitated. He spoke very fast. Okay. There was a situation with someone, and he was talking like a mile a minute in one room with somebody, and this guy said as soon as he came in, that other person beat it out of there. And he said, yes, I could see by this behavior that maybe if he was drunk and he was triggered, he could become aggressive. But he never threatened him, and but you could see, he said, in a second he might become violent if he was talking to the wrong person. That could trigger him. And he had extreme opinions on things. Like he said once there was a chip that a competing computer company came out with, and Tim said, oh my gosh, they're going to crush Intel with this chip. And this guy said, why would you think that, Tim? And he started to explain like all the reasons it wouldn't happen. And then Tim would not listen at all. You couldn't change his mind. But then he said about 2 weeks later, he came over to his cubicle and he said, hey, you know what? You were right. You're right about that chip. You know, I don't think we have to worry. I think Intel's chip is way better. And so this guy found it so remarkable because Tim never did that before. You know, Tim would never come. Tim had his mind made up, and there was no changing it. He tried to change others' minds. So that was the only time he ever saw him. So he said he has a strong opinion, and it could be sometimes irrational in thinking, again, when connecting the dots to things. So he could have all these irrational thoughts about things, but he could not be swayed. Okay? And it doesn't mean that he would be violent. It was more of a verbal debate. That's what he said. So the cross-examination said debate. Let's say that, it was just, here? The debates were not at all violent, and he just was set in his ways. But the only time that he ever conceded was when he finally admitted that he was wrong about that chip. He had very strong views on finances and things that were work related. So he kept thinking of a way to make money in the stock market so he'd never have to work again in it's kind of an office setting. And let's see, he tried to think about, he told them about medical school, the stock market, find a way to make money, not have to go to work anymore. The last 2 months that he was there were many changes in him. He was missing team meetings. He wasn't showing up. He was coming in late. He was using a lot of sick days. and he wasn't on time or he didn't come at all. But he was never violent, no. He never, lost control like that. And then that was the end of his. And then, where are we? Then we've got the team leader that came on, who was very impressed with Tim. He was impressed with him because he heard Tim told him that he was the first in his family to get a college degree, and this guy said his father was the first in his family to get a college degree. So he had a lot of respect for Tim, that Tim did this, And interaction outside of work, no, not with him, but he knew he had family. He knew he had Amber and the kids. He never met them. Initially, Tim had a very strong work ethic, and he was a very hard worker. He was always eager and easy to work with, and he volunteered to do things, above and beyond what he had to. He had a lot of care in his work. Early on, he was more consistent, but then his demeanor started to change in the late summer. And again, the same type of things, he didn't do good if you challenged his thinking, but he had marital problems, and he told him on one or more team meetings, because they could see that Tim was under a great deal of stress. So he would say, it's the divorce, it's the custody battle. I'm angry, I'm frustrated. They said he was visibly shaken. They said he was sweating. You could see sweat on his brow. He was losing weight. They asked him if you noticed a smell about him, like smoke or anything. So he said, we did notice things, but they never thought he would hurt the kids. And then this poor guy thought, oh my gosh, he couldn't believe it when he heard what he did, when he finally did it. And he was talking to his wife on the phone, and then he sat down and he cried on the sidewalk. So he said that Intel was like an extension of family, and that why couldn't somebody realize that something was going on with him? They asked him, did he ever say he heard voices? No, again, right? Did he ever talk about his mother? No. Did he ever say the kids were out to get him? No. And then the cross was, disbelief of all the Intel employees as they heard what Tim did. And, no violence, no anger. No, he was agitated, yes, but he was going through the divorce. That's when they saw him agitated. Could he express emotion? Could he smile and laugh? Yes, he would light up talking about things. He had good performance, everything before that. He had interpersonal skills better than others. That's what he's saying, because most of them didn't even have the interpersonal skills that that Tim had. He had a positive outlook, up until those last few months, and then there was the sweating and the smell. Did you know he was smoking spice? No. You never saw any kind of behavior that you would think he would do that to his kids. No, they didn't. And then we have another guy that worked with him for 3.5 years on the same team. They asked him the same things. Did he talk about his mother? Did he say his kids were out to get him? No. Did he say he was hearing voices? No. Now this guy, Tim lived with this guy. This is the last guy, okay? So he was pretty pissed that somebody said that this guy had an extra bedroom, okay? Because they said, well, why were you upset about that? He said, well, I really didn't want him. He was, what did he call him? He called him an odd dog. I think that's what he called him, an odd dog. And just that, he said, but then why did you do it? Why did you say yes? He said, well, because you helped someone. I mean, they said I had it, so I was going to help him. And he said that Tim was by himself. He would cook his own food. He would eat by himself. He wasn't social. This guy had a computer where he had a projector, so it was on a big screen, the display, and he put an account for, I was going to say Tim, on the computer, and Tim to go on Facebook. And that's when Tim told him, no, you don't go on Facebook. and all this conspiracy theory stuff, and he said it was like tinfoil hat stuff. He was way out there with all this stuff, and so he saw they didn't connect on that level. And then when they went out, they got drunk, and he told him about the divorce, and that he was really, really upset because he said that it wasn't the fact that Amber cheated, it was the fact that who she cheated with. And he made this guy younger than he was. He said the guy was 17. Well, I don't know if this guy remembered it as that, but that's not what he was. And he's just a kid. And look at me. I graduated college, and I have this big job with Intel, and she did this, and he was very rejected and very angry, and, you know, he just couldn't get over that who she cheated with thing. Okay, and let's see. So he lived with him from 2012 to 2013. The kids were in Mississippi with Tim Sr.'s parents at the time. He was going down on weekends to see them. And let's see what happened here. Talked about the Facebook, talked about going to see the kids. He would leave on a Friday after work. He'd come back on a Monday. So he thought that meant he was very devoted to his children and he missed them. He can't reconcile the two people, the Tim that he knew and the Tim that killed his family. The cross-examination was fairly short. Prosecutors said, well, maybe there's a good reason not to be on Facebook. There's a lot of people that are on Facebook, and wasn't Facebook found to have sold people's information and this and that? And so he said, well, yeah, we can agree to disagree. And the prosecutor basically just left it like that. He said, do you really think it was tinfoil theory? I mean, what, you want to go that far? And we'll agree to disagree. And that was it for today. Now let's see what you guys are saying, or what I'm probably left out. A lot of people have asked in the comments lines of the trial videos why Amber didn't make a call to the battered women's shelter and have them help her to get out with the kids. You kind of wonder that too, Des. I think it's because she, when she was fighting for custody and everything, and they have reports. Go see, a lot of this stuff isn't out all the way yet, but there are CPS reports that I think you can read them online, because of course that's where I read them, that there are reports of him hitting her. Okay, so she didn't drive. She didn't have an education. He kept her down. So, you know, we don't know. Those kind of questions, ouch. You know, we can ask if they don't come out after this, but I feel like there's a fly. But there's a lot of power play, and he held the upper hand with a lot of issues, like having an attorney and all of that, and having, you know, more knowledge of what he could do and what he couldn't, and taking everything from her, okay, so that he would take away, the only way the kids would have a house and a roof and a car, and everything was with him. So she thought she was doing the right thing there because she was like buffaloed in court. Right. See, Bridget says, no car, no job, no home means no anything. He left her without anything and wouldn't answer calls to see her. Yeah, he missed supervised visits and all of that stuff. And she didn't have an attorney fighting for her that she could just call and say, Tim missed his visit, Tim did this. She didn't even know a lot about what, you know, was... Right, this thing is driving me crazy. Oh my gosh, Jimmy,
What?
there's a fly in here that's driving me out of my mind.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
If I come in here, it'll go away.
Oh. Tim is a whack job and not even the cool type. Your daughter's ex is the same religion. It's a cult, not a religion. See, he keeps landing on my hair.
Hang on, I'll get it.
There he is again.
Hang on.
Oh, gosh. Gosh, look what you just did. Did you get him?
Make sure he's not in your hair. See. Let's see. I think I got him.
You think you got? Bet you he'll come back the minute you go out. Okay, now let me.
Let me know.
Okay, I'll say.
He's not on your keyboard or anything like that.
He
right?
do you think he got it? I don't know if he got it.
Did they see?
I don't know if they saw. Did anybody see if he
slow
got
mo
it?
that and see if I got him.
Okay. So Judy says, shelters and agencies, in my experience, do not do as much as people think they do to help the women out. Many offer shelter and counseling, yet do not do hands-on. Okay, wish she had known about legal aid. They saved me. She says, I was abused.
I just saw him right here.
You saw him?
Yeah. No.
I doubt if Amber was aware of her rights, right? He probably blamed his wife for all of this. Yes. For those just joining, oh, okay. I'm trying to see if anybody, she left their home and moved in with her boyfriend. A narcissistic killer that was hell-bent on revenge. Barking at women is that he thinks they are ugly. I didn't get... Jimmy, did you think when he was barking at them that he thought they were ugly?
No.
The women in Wendy's?
No, look, roof, like, it's just, no, it's almost like whistling at them.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah, Jeff, did you get your test results? I hope we're good there. He definitely had a bruised ego. CPS workers seemed like she didn't want to read her report. Right, yeah, I know. Because then she probably felt like they're going to say, well, why did you leave the kids there? Because she tried to downplay what happened until the prosecution made her read the report. And then tried to say, well, the sheriff's deputy said leave them there, that just as long as we had a safety plan. It often takes a long time for a victim to do that. Emotional abuse is as bad as physical abuse. Lots of schizophrenics don't kill. Okay, so I think if Tim and Chris met, they could... Surely it's not that Amber didn't visit her kids. Hard to believe. Okay, so that was, I wonder who they're going to call. I mean, are they just going to continue to go through every Intel employee and just ask them the same questions? Did he talk to you about the voices? Did he talk to you about the, was his meeting call? Sounds like he was a misogynist. Language, barking out orders, barking like cat calls. Thanks, John. I agree with what Carolyn said. What woman is completely beaten down, not educated? She does not know that she can get out. Or that they beat them down for years and tell them they're nothing and nobody will listen to them. And I'm working and my monitor automatically just switched into this chat. It's not a fly. No, I can't stand that. That's, I like as soon as the flies come out, then I go nuts. One fly, and it always seems like it's one fly, but then when you kill one and then you find out there's two in there. I'm sure she was very depressed and sad, regrets some of her decisions. Isn't to lose, no, definitely not punishment to lose her babies. I'm glad. She is not the one who killed her children. My son loves his bug racket. Jimmy's. Yeah, we have one of those too. And we have probably 30 fly swatters, but he usually does that and gets them. I don't know. He's dead in my hair. No, he better not be dead in my hair. His mental stability status is one person's opinion against another, Hennessy says. Hello, everybody. Hi, you. Go, girl. No evidence of schizophrenia. More like angry drug addict. Question about her leaving the kid is not the main problem. He killed the kids. That is not justifiable. Okay. Mr. Miyagi. From the Karate Kid. It was obvious. I think I just saw him again. No driver's license makes her very dependent on him. Yeah, I see him. What happens to him if they find him legally insane? I don't understand. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, does he go to, fly is driving me nuts. An insane asylum or something? Does he go out of the prison? But somebody said no, he doesn't go out of the prison. So it doesn't, but I think it just disqualifies him for the death penalty. I think that's what's going on. Thank you, John. Dr. Lippman reminded you of Alfred Hitchcock. They won't find him insane. Yes, he does. Yes, he'll be, but I think D. Kluger said no, that he did. They can keep him receiving the death penalty from if he's found insane. They can keep him from receiving, right. Sorry if this was answered. Was she physically abused? Yes, there was physical abuse that was noted in previous reports from CPS. They only went over one, but I know I saw them before. They're published somewhere on the web. You can find them. There are more. Let me see if I can find them right now. I did see them and I did read them. Okay, I'm reading this one this is from 2016, okay, when it says mother claims social services did not do enough ahead of 5 children being killed. So the former wife of the man accused of brutally killing his 5 children, then dumping their bodies in a ditch in rural Alabama, has filed a lawsuit against the state and Lexington County Department of Social Services for failing to protect the children from their murders. Amber Jones has filed the suit in Lexington County on Friday, according to documents, and is seeking an undetermined amount of damages for the wrongful deaths and conscious pain and suffering of her children. Each child suffered a horrific but entirely preventable death, the lawsuit said. In the suit, Jones alleges the state and the county DSS branch failed to protect the 5 children, Abigail Elizabeth Jones, Gabriel Jones, Nathan Jones, Elias Jones, and Mara Gracie Jones before they were found dead in Alabama back in September 2014. The children's father, Timothy Jones Jr., was arrested and charged in the case after being stopped at a safety checkpoint in Mississippi. The suit refers to Jones Jr. as a well-documented child abuser. Jones Jr. was indicted on 5 counts of murder. And then we have, what do we have, timeline? Let's see what's here. At all times relevant to this action, South Carolina DSS had actual knowledge of the risk posed to the children by Mr. Jones and the inadequacy of the Lexington County DSS's response to those risks based on reports and investigations provided to SC DSS by Lexington County DSS, the lawsuit said. The lawsuit details some of the history involving Jones, the children, DSS, and other parties. In 2011, the lawsuit says DSS made visits a couple of different times because the children were living in dirty conditions, were being neglected, and had a substantial risk of physical injury. The lawsuit goes on to note that DSS didn't do much more than file safety plans. Also recorded in the suit were notations where caseworkers returned in 2012 and learned that Tim threatened to snap his wife's neck. Okay? In 2013 and 2014, a teacher reported signs of abuse multiple times, according to the lawsuit. It also states another school official reported to DSS that Tim Jones choked one of the children and threw the child against a wall. This is what she read, but she didn't say it at first. She just said that he jerked the child up by his shirt and spanked him. That's what she said, okay? And then when they made her read the report, that's what she read. Threw him up against a wall in May 2014. In the summer of 2014, DSS observed more signs of abuse at the home. Next. A teacher reported signs of abuse as well as a babysitter during that time, according to the suit. In total, Amber says that DSS showed negligence in 11 areas, different areas. The suit also goes into further detail about what happened on the day the Jones children went missing and were eventually found dead in Alabama. Neighbors told deputies that Jones said he was moving the children from his home near Lexington to another state. The last time anyone saw the children was August 28th. And I know there were even reports that they had the actual reports here. Timothy Ray Jones appeared increasingly overwhelmed with caring for 5 children as a single parent, and he was accused of beating one son so hard last month that he left extensive bruising. Records from South Carolina Department of Social Services state. Okay. DSS investigated 3 complaints about the Jones family beginning in September 2011. The first time a caseworker visited the home, records show the biggest concern was that the house was under renovation and cluttered with tools that might endanger the young children. By August, the allegations had turned ominous that Jones once beat one son and was not properly feeding the children. He will bring home a 20-piece chicken McNugget dinner to feed all 5 children, the report said. It is reported that Mr. Jones does not want to send his children back to public schools because he does not want the school to report the beatings. And then it says 3 years of DSS records portray the disintegration of the family. Jones had been in trouble before, serving 9 months in prison for cocaine possession, stealing a car, burglary, and passing forged checks when he was 19. But after getting out of prison in 2003, he earned a degree from Mississippi State University and was making more than $70,000 a year as a computer engineer with Intel in the Columbia area. Records suggest his final unraveling began when Jones, 32, discovered his wife having an affair with a younger man. And afterward, DSS investigated reports of escalating abuse, ended with the deaths of 5 children, ages 1 through 8. Investigators believe Jones killed the children in Lexington, South Carolina, and transported their bodies around in his SUV for a week or more before dumping them on the side of the road off a rural Alabama road. Let's see. Said DSS first began involved with the family in 2011 when Tim and Amber Jones were still married. They had 3 children. They were living in the town of Batesville, Leesville, South Carolina, and they had moved from Mississippi a few months earlier when Jones got the job transfer. Someone complained that the children were dirty, they were not attending school, and that their yard was filled with trash. A DSS caseworker made multiple visits, counseling Amber Jones about making sure tools were put away, air vents were covered, and rooms were clean. Amber Jones told the caseworker that she planned to homeschool her 5-year-old and that the 2 younger children were not old enough for school. On the 5th visit, the records show Timothy Jones confronted the caseworker over the phone, blaming DSS for ruining people's lives. He became so hostile, DSS records show, the caseworker called a sheriff's deputy for assistance. Jones seemed calmer when he arrived home, the caseworker wrote. He agreed to take the children to a hotel until the house was clean. 10 days later, the caseworker returned and described the home as very, very, very clean. The caseworker visited a few more times over 6 months. By the end of April 2012, DSS records showed Timothy and Amber Jones had separated. According to divorce records, Jones discovered his wife was having an affair with a 19-year-old neighbor. The Joneses had 4 children by then, and Amber was pregnant with a 5th. The children were living with her. 3 weeks later, Amber Jones told the caseworker that Timothy Jones took the children to live with their grandparents in Mississippi. Though DSS records do not provide details of any domestic violence, the caseworker said she advised Amber Jones about a program for battered women and their children. Now, this conflicts with that he was going to snap her neck. And in another report somewhere, it said that this is so crazy. DSS alerted social workers in Mississippi and closed the case in South Carolina. Timothy and Amber Jones were eventually divorced, and he was awarded primary custody of the children. Escalating abuse. Then 2 years passed before a second DSS complaint was filed in May, and the records don't indicate who brought the allegation. It was someone at the school. The caseworker went to the school. One of the boys attended to investigate. The boy had a circular mark on the side of his neck. Jones admitted grabbing his son by the back of his shirt and spanking him, but Jones said the boy was clumsy and it bruised easily. The caseworker made several visits to the mobile home in the town of Red Bank, where Jones had moved with his 5 children. One day when the caseworker arrived unannounced, Jones and the children were all at home and seemed happy. And Jones had bought cupcakes to celebrate a birthday. It was Mira's birthday. According to DSS records, Jones told the caseworker that the children had not seen their mother in 4 months, though he was on the phone with her, okay? And he said, DSS is here. Law enforcement concluded that Jones didn't intentionally harm his sons. DSS records state, and the case was closed July 24th. 2 weeks later, on August 7th, DSS received a 3rd complaint, and that time it was that Jones had beaten his son. A caseworker and 2 sheriff's deputies went to the home and examined the children. The boy had a bandage over his eye, but said his sister accidentally hit him with the doorknob. A babysitter confirmed the account. She said that Jones had just returned from taking his 3 sons and 2 daughters to Disney World. A month later, the children were dead. So, and there's more too. I've seen the actual reports, and there is abuse on Amber in those, and just like the snap the neck thing was in there too. So whoever wrote this article for the newspaper conveniently left that out. Let's see. Good night, Pure Country. He would be spinning chiclets. Do you want to call in, Pure Studios? Who wants to call in about the case? Did someone want to call in to talk about the case? Hi, Backdoor. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Peggy Sue got married. Hi, Pencilla. Hi D90. If someone wants to call in, you email me at carolyn@truecrimechat.org. Hi Patricia. Hi John, Carla. You sent me an email? Okay. How come I don't see any? Oh wait, did I finally get some? Not that I have, Linda. Are you sure you sent it to the right address? The last email I have is from 12/11, and then I have one that's from Caddy. I have one from Stephanie and Bridget. Okay, Bridget, I got your email, and I have something about that woman. I tried to answer her, and her email comes back to me, if you know her or how to get a hold of her, because it's very, very odd. Her email comes back that I have to pay money. Okay, you know how sometimes you get those things that you just have to enter a code or something to prove you're not a robot? Well, this one comes back that I've got to pay money for her to get my email. Okay, so I don't even know what kind of scam that is. So I did answer her, and I can show her the email that I sent. It said it couldn't be delivered unless I paid money to get her the email. Okay, so you can tell her that she can email me from somewhere that I can reply, and I will reply to what she needs to know. But there's no way that I don't even know what this, I'm not giving my information or my credit card information or anything to this thing to get her an email. I've never even heard of whatever it is. So if she wants the information that badly, she's going to have to email from a regular email. Okay, and that is Gigi Gypsy. So Gigi Gypsy, if you're listening and you're upset that no one's answering you, I'm trying to answer you. But you have something on your email that makes it impossible for me. So let's see. And then, yeah, I don't have anything from you, Linda, at all. Nothing at all. And I don't have anything from anyone else that wants to call in. Let me see here. Do you want to call in, Sarah? Okay. Okay, I'll give you the number. I'm thinking that you want to call in. It doesn't state exactly, but it says you may have something to offer. So I'm assuming that's what it means. So we'll see here. Hang on. Okay. Oh, now here's Linda. Okay. 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 Yeah, I've never heard of, I've heard of, having to jump through, like, there's one with like BOBX, whatever it is, where you have to just enter a code or you have to put your name down. This one said you had to pay some cryptocurrency in order to get the email through. Sorry, yeah, it does sound like a hack. I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. Hey, Yamil, is Yamil back? I see somebody saying hi to Yamil, but I didn't say Yamil. Hi, Yamil, if you're here. I I can't see, but I see someone saying hello. So I guess you. Oh, I think I just saw you. Hold on. Oh, hi, email. That is the email that you need. Maybe I should get it too. I've never seen anything like that. That's like deep web stuff. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Sorry. You sent an email about the little girl, Malia, in Texas? Okay. We should all get it, yeah. We wouldn't get, my emails are always, you've got no more room. Oh, hi, who's there? Who's there?
Hi, this is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, is this Carolyn?
Yes.
Hi, okay, I got a little confused because I'm not used to it automatically putting the meeting ID and everything in, so that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Oh, okay, because probably, yeah, I don't know, there's different things. So what did you click on to get that all done? Did you just click on the website?
Yeah, with the email, I clicked the one touch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so at least I got through. I got confused. I hung up at first because I thought, ooh, what did I do wrong? But I got through to you.
Good, good.
So, no, what I thought I could offer, because I see a lot in the chat, like people just don't understand, well, why didn't she leave sooner? Why didn't she take the kids? Why didn't she call a woman's shelter? And, it's my understanding that they lived in a very rural area. She was extremely young when she got with him. His intention, I've been watching a bit of the trial and I've been kind of catching up, when I saw what it was about, I was kind of hesitant to visit the testimony, Anyway, I wanted to offer a little bit of insight of what it's like to be the victim of an abuser. Those that are questioning it probably have not been through spousal abuse. I've been through it. I was married for 11 years. I left 18 years ago, and believe it or not, I'm still recovering. I'm a heck of a lot better than I was, but leaving my ex-husband was not easy. And fortunately, we did not have children together. He had 3 children from his previous marriage, who I absolutely adored. And he made it very clear that if I ever left him, I'd never see his kids again. There were times he threatened to harm his children if I left. A lot of abuse is isolation and fear. And once you're isolated from your family and your friends, that's when they make sure that you're afraid. They get you isolated. They convince you that it's you and them against the world and everybody else is against the two of you. And we have to prove everybody wrong. And anybody who, speaks out and gives concern about the relationship or things they've seen, they're our enemy. In her case, he kept her pregnant. He kept her uneducated. He kept her unable to be independent. Like she wasn't driving. He wasn't letting her work. He controlled everything, which is standard pro quo. As soon as they get you isolated, they get that fear into you. They take total and utter control. Money, who you can and cannot speak with, where you can and cannot go, what you will and will not believe in. I watched. Pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that that's like the Andrea Yates case.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And we're seeing kind of a repeat in this.
Right.
Well, this guy used religion.
So did the Yates, I think.
Well, yes, exactly. And here's the thing with this guy. I mean, let's look at his history. Is he the pillar of religious? Not really. He served time in prison. He found religion in prison. Most convicts do. I think he realized using religion would be a very effective tool in finding a spouse and somebody he can control. This guy is about control. Look at his demeanor in the courtroom. Yes, we see facial expressions, but you see him performing a lot of restraint. There's some stoic, body language from this guy. Like, look how controlled I am. A lot of fake crying when it's necessary for him to cry. He squeezes a few of them out. To me, and I have some friends who are schizophrenic. They are treated schizophrenic. He's not even showing the classic signs of schizophrenia sitting in the courtroom.
No, there's another clue about his ability to control in the testimony of his coworkers, who all
exactly
had no clue. It's like Chris Watts. We would never knew that, and so they put on
great
this
comparison, because you're spot on with that. I was just going to bring up Chris Watts. I was just going to say everybody around Chris Watts said he's a swell guy and he was so smart and so level-headed. Well, look what he did.
There's this comparison about this. I was mentioning how there are these, Carolyn, you said before, these other innocent victims, like their coworkers, and the manager today said he went outside and got a coffee or whatever. He sat on the curb and started crying, and he went to talk to his priest. And wasn't that also true with one of Watts's coworkers? Just
yes,
the
absolutely. He was
societal.
that young man that was interviewed, one of his coworkers. Exactly. I totally felt for him. I'm like, this poor guy. He showed more emotion and grief in his interview than Chris Watts could fake. You know what I mean? He couldn't even fake it. Even when they went back and interviewed Watts after the fact, months later, he couldn't even muster up the same level. Well, here's what I think we're looking at. I think we're looking at a narcissistic personality disorder. This is a guy who, thought he was God. Delusions of grandeur. I have a wife. Her job is, to, carry my, seed, produce children for me, do as I say, be seen and not heard. She was so young, her and I, she was 19 when she married him. I was 19 when I married my ex-husband, who was 8 years older than me. I didn't have a bad home life. It was just strict. Long story short, I lived in a very isolated area. I didn't have a lot of freedom. Some guy comes along, promises me, the moon, the stars, and a picket fence. I went for it, and boy, do I wish I would have listened to my mommy and daddy. I went through a lot of physical abuse.
It's horrible.
Psychological, sexual abuse.
So maybe you'd be a good one. The reason I called in was we were talking about what a societal problem it is. Who will protect the children of people like
exactly
and Jones, and why
exactly.
as a society aren't we investing money in the protective services or in family development or in our laws or our political system? What do we have to do? We can't just case by case bemoan these poor children who were killed by these psychopaths, narcissists, whatever you want to call them.
Everybody keeps saying, she left her kids, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's time out, back up. She didn't kill her children. He did. He killed those kids. And the thing is, the thing is that calls were coming in prior to her leaving because they were living in poverty, basically. Garbage in the yard, reports coming in. She is a abused woman, okay? So
But
those reports were coming in before, but they continued after she was gone. That should have raised a huge red flag. Hello, CPS, common denominator over here.
But it goes deeper than that. And I was chatting with a couple of people online, Carolyn, as to this being something that maybe some of them would want to call in and talk about too. That it is, we're missing. I mean, you can call CPS, but if they don't have competent workers or enough of them or good abilities because they get paid so low, we are just going to keep hearing case after case after case. And
yeah, but see, I think that also goes back to who's making the reports. Are these anonymous phone calls that are coming in? Like he blamed the babysitter, a disgruntled babysitter, for some of the accusations, but many of the accusations came from mandated reporters, school teachers. Those are mandated reporters.
But the point is that people that they report to are incompetent. The system is broken.
Well, you're very true about that. No, you're right about that. But what I'm saying is that's where CPS should have said, okay, we're getting calls from mandated reporters. This is not a disgruntled babysitter. This is not the ex-wife calling in anonymously with, accusations. These are mandated reporters alerting us, and we need to be vigilant in what we're going to do.
So how do we?
Well, here's the thing. We get kids that get taken away from parents who have a messy house but have never laid a finger on their children. All they need to do is clean up. But in this case, we had 5 kids, well, at least 4 of them that were school-aged, that were absolutely terrified of their father, terrified of him. And this is after mandated reporting came in. That should have been, excuse the expression, balls to the wall, CPS worker, don't let this go, don't let this slide. You need to step in, take immediate emergency custody of these children, send them to a safe place, and then deal with him on whatever level you need to deal with him.
May I ask
I live in Washington State. I do not know if you're familiar with the Susan Powell case. Susan Powell disappeared in Utah back in 2009. Her husband supposedly took their 2 small children, ages 2 and 4, on a camping trip at midnight, came home the next day. She went missing. He ended up moving to Puyallup. And his father was found to have child pornography. So the 2 boys were taken by the state and handed over to her parents temporarily from their father's care, temporarily. He was allowed visitation rights. Well, here's what happened. They went to court on custody. In the meantime, in between his father's charges, because they were living with his father. So that's why the kids were taken. In the interim, they discovered pornographic cartoons with child porn and incest porn, but they were cartoons on their father's, the children's father's computer. So they weren't going to let him have the kids back. And so the state said, you have to do a psychosexual evaluation. And until you do it, you're not going to get your kids back. But they continue to allow in-home visits. The caseworker picked the children up from their grandparents. It was Super Bowl Sunday, 2012. Picked the kids up. They were ages 7 and 5 at the time. Their mother's missing. He suspected of murdering their mother. Never was arrested, but was the suspect. Caseworker picks up the kids, takes the kids to his home. The kids ran ahead of her, ran into the house. Before she can even get her foot on the step, he slammed the door, locked it, took a hatchet to those boys, and then blew the house up. And this is because combination CPS and the family court did not take the risk to those children seriously enough. We're talking about mandated reporting here with this guy. I don't understand why a safety plan was even written when there were so many mandated reporters that said, he's harmed the children, there's marks on the children fear him. I don't get it. Because a mom who gets overwhelmed with laundry, who's never laid a finger on her kids, the state will walk in and take the kids away till her laundry's caught up. But this guy was actually putting marks on his children. He had a history of violence with the former wife. Documented. He served time in prison. To me, I just, overall in this country, we have a big problem with our justice system when it comes to domestic violence and abuse against kids, period. It's across the board. What can we do about it? Where are we going to get the money? We get told every day there is no money. We're not even taking care of our veterans. So where are we going to get the money to overhaul CPS?
So Carolyn, a question. I think she brings up a good point, and I was just going to ask if anyone wanted to talk about it more, that issue more broadly. You know, she brings up there is this broken system in a channel dedicated to talking about true crime. We also examine social issues related to the conditions that make it possible for crimes to occur, and do we want to talk about those kinds of, well, why do we have a broken legal system, or why do we have a broken CPS system, or education, or family, or religion?
Yeah.
Well,
let me explain something to you about my story. When I left my ex-husband, he came after me with a knife. He beat me, he raped me, and he held a knife to my throat. You know how many days he spent in jail? 2 days. 2 days. That's it. Now, if a stranger on the street had abducted me, beaten me, raped me, and held a knife to my throat, would he have gotten more time? It was because he was my husband and we had a domestic relationship. He basically got a slap on the wrist.
So what do you do about those of us who were abused as children by our fathers? And nobody knew because we were too scared to tell anybody, and who did not say anything publicly.
Well, here's the thing. We shove it in our educational system. We shove it down our children's throats about good and bad.
I'm talking personally. I don't like the fact
I understand, sweetheart. What I'm saying is nowadays we shove this down our children's throats. Good touch, bad touch. What's okay, what's not okay. It's not okay to hit. But then they tell, like these children did. They told a teacher, they told the school nurse, and look what happened. Nobody helped them.
If nobody else wants to call in and talk about that more broadly, that's fine. But I just thought I'd introduce it. And,
but who do you turn to? Who do you turn to? And now, and this is back, I'm talking about when you were a kid, there was nobody to turn to. But nowadays, we tell our kids, tell an adult, tell a teacher.
Well, it's a matter of resources. Don't you think? You're talking about who has the money. It's a matter of resources and priorities and where we put our resources as smaller communities, large communities.
Yeah, but sometimes I see cases. Yeah, but sometimes I see cases like this where it's so blatantly out there. You know, we have these kids expressing their fear.
To do anything about it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We have a case where these kids did everything they were supposed to do, that they were told and taught
the community
in school.
Around them. It takes a village. It takes a country. It takes a system. We're all one giant system, and one thing affects each other. So
I know that. But honey, that's what I'm saying. These kids did what they were supposed to do, and somebody dropped the ball. And the somebody who dropped the ball was the one organization who was supposed to step in and say, enough's enough. We're taking, emergency custody of these children. They knew this guy was a loose cannon. They knew he had a long history. That's the thing that kills me.
I'm saying I can let somebody else call in if they want to talk more about this topic. But, because I I think it's worth discussing, but I'm not hearing, Carolyn, you respond to my questions to you. So maybe
Well, I know
more
I'm
important to
trying,
talk
Linda.
about
I'm
things.
trying to read. Everybody hears an echo when I keep my mic on, so I put it on mute.
Yeah, she puts it on mute, honey.
So
I
that's why.
thought you knew that. I thought you knew that, sweetheart. She puts it on mute because it echoes.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say, if anybody wants to come in and talk about it, fine. If not, I'll just put it out there. That might be something worth exploring.
Right.
And,
I mean, yeah. In fact, if you want to call in, just send an email, and you can get the number if you want to talk about either of these topics. Sarah's talking about why Amber, giving you insight on why Amber couldn't have left because of the abuse she suffered, and Linda's talking about the broken system.
Yeah, because I think both of them.
They're interrelated, of course.
Oh, absolutely, honey. They go hand in hand. I mean, I can't imagine saying the system is intact when we have 5 dead kids here. We got 5 dead kids.
Worker. So, ma'am, I get paid, I'm a social worker and I get paid what? $25,000 a year, and I've got 18 cases.
Your caseload is ridiculous, and how are you supposed to manage?
Right, and I
almost pursued. I almost pursued a career in social work as a victims advocate for domestic violence victims, and I looked at, I didn't even look at the money as much as I looked at the way the system was set up, and I'm like, how can I help these people? How can one person have a caseload of 20 families, and effectively? Well, I think that's where, honey, it goes back to it takes a village. I think those people who care all need to work together, whether they think it's their problem or not. Do you know how many times I had my husband beat me with next door neighbors who heard everything and didn't call the cops because they didn't want to get involved? Oh, I'm not going to get involved in domestic violence.
What is crime? What is crime? Is it an individual flaw? Is it a sociological?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. I get you. No, I get you. I'm on the same page with you. What is it?
So, and who's responsible and who can deal with it?
Is it broken? We don't get to see a lot of slam dunk cases like the Chris Watts case where, he's guilty dead to rights, and instead of putting everybody through hell with a trial, he goes ahead and takes the guilty plea. We don't get to see that a lot. We see a justice system that is so clogged up.
These real cases like was it Joey case, who was abandoned and beaten up, and then we've had, of course, the Watts case. They were not exactly poor, but and now we have this Jones case, and so we have this case after case where this turns up again and again. Is anybody saying they want to come in and talk about this? What I'm suggesting? If not, I'll pull out, and because I think she has some really good points she can make too.
Well, I do. I think you have some really great points too, sweetheart. And you know what? I just want you to know, I'm really sorry that you went through abuse. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, of course. I feel the same.
If I can give you a hug, I'd give you a hug because I've been there, and I'm really sorry that you experienced it.
It's silent, and everybody thought my dad was great. What a guy! And so this funeral, nobody knew.
My ex-husband, and everybody thought my ex-husband was the greatest guy on the planet.
So what do I do at his funeral? Yeah. I read a letter that was sent to our family by one of his coworkers so that I could say some positive things about him because it was still a secret. And that was less than 10 years ago.
Oh,
right?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I think about all the people that it's happening to now that we're not tuned into. And people that, I was in
that stay silent,
I was in a suburban middle class family, and people would never have guessed. And so, I wasn't beaten.
Was your father a narcissist? Was your father a narcissist?
I think so. Yeah, he was in sales. Yeah. I think everything was about him, and it was really complicated. I mean, he had a girlfriend for many, many years that we didn't know about. So it would have been better had he just left my mother and gone with her. But I don't really
left the rest of you alone. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
I think it's important for us to be to a certain extent, see, my name is out there, right? I haven't a clever handle like everybody else. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway.
I just want you to know that I am sorry for what you were put through, especially by your dad.
I guess when anybody goes through, I'm thinking, I'm a retiring university teacher, so I'm thinking, what do I want my next phase to be? And I think maybe I'm going to go into some kind of advocacy for children who are abused, and really try to find some kind of forum in which I can contribute my voice to that. Because
if you can do that, more power to you. Because I thought about being a battered woman's advocate, and I realized I didn't have the moxie for it. I felt like, man, I'm not going to be able to help these ladies because I still have my own, unresolved stuff, and what good am I going to do for somebody else when I have so much unresolved?
In my college classes, I look at my students in my college classes, and the statistic is 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 have been abused. Now, I don't know if that's a general population,
God bless you.
but so I look at all my college students I've had over 30 years, and I think people have passed through my life that had I had the tentacles out, perhaps I could have helped. Had I been honest,
or what your impact was, who you did help, the impact that you had on them.
There were some cases of people coming to me, and I was able to. I didn't share my personal, and I was able to. So,
God bless you, because it takes a really strong person to go in that field of work. I don't want to blame CPS with the case with these kids, in the sense of they have that policy, but they have their policy. I'm saying it's a larger
social issue. It's a larger social political issue that
unfortunately
could be
their policy is not law. And if a stranger walked up to your child on the street and slapped them across the face, they'd go to jail. Correct? Correct. Why is a parent who is inflicting physical harm on the child not being arrested immediately?
To heck with these laws. If I see somebody, maybe we as a society have to say, to heck with these laws. If I see somebody slapping their child in a grocery line, I'm going to pull the child aside, and I'm going to wait there until somebody comes and we can have a discussion about why that's happened. And
here's the thing. Here's the thing we're left with, though. You have your people who think, well, if you yell at your child, that's abuse. Okay, there's a line. What's the line? Well, the line is with this guy in particular. He was leaving marks on his children. His children were absolutely terrified of him. He already had a history of violence before he was the sole parent to children. Hello, red flag, alarm bell. We got a problem here, Houston.
But nobody knew anything about this one.
I just don't understand. Well, they had his record. They had it right there. They knew. And instead they made a safety plan. This was not a case for allowing the children to stay with him with a safety plan. They should have been taken, put into protective custody, develop a safety plan, and see if you can follow through with it. Yes.
Poor Linda's trying. Linda's trying to get a few sentences out. I know you're passionate. No, it's okay. Let's. I can get the same way. I know. Let her just have a few minutes to talk, because everybody's wanting her to finish her sentences. And okay, all right, that's okay. I understand.
Well, I don't know that there's a lot more that I can say, except to say that I think as a society, we can examine and we can say, okay, am I just going to rely on the police to take care of this? Am I just going to rely on the social workers to take care of that? Am I just going to rely on the teachers? Or are we going to be conscientious citizens who are sensitive to these issues and work together? And I don't have all the answers, but I think we're such a big system, and I do think it takes political will and pressure. And I teach public relations, and in public relations we talk about advocacy and how can you garner support and advocacy for. If you were an individual and you came up against a big corporate entity, you would have nothing to say, but you can get other people who have voice, and you can put pressure. I mean, that's nothing new to anybody who's aware of what goes on in the world. But these kind of cases could bring out people who have been on the sidelines and saying, "Oh, that's too bad, and I'm so sorry, and isn't it a shame?" But to rally people together to, okay, we're going in front of cameras now to take care of this, and let's do something. And so that's a few sentences, and I'll pause there.
You know what? I really like what you just said right there about advocacy. Maybe instead of looking at it from, like you said, well, is it the caseworker? Is it the law enforcement? Is it the teacher's responsibility? Maybe, I think you're on to something. If we saw encouragement for everybody to be an advocate. Do you get what I'm getting at? For everybody to be an advocate.
And we know that puppies are really innocent and they're powerless. And so are children. And does anybody want to join in a discussion about how we can...
Instead of just saying such a shame.
Yeah, Linda, there is somebody that's coming on to discuss. Just 1 second.
That was very profound what you just said about being an advocate and not just being on the sidelines saying, "Oh, that's so sad. Oh, what a shame." You know, are you just going to stand by and let other people worry about it?
I did some interviews with people in Eastern Europe who were persecuted for their faith under communism, and they were muted and jailed, and they got their jobs. And so
persecuted,
And so children are muted. They have no voice. And we who are comfortable in our homes can be their voices if we can find one another.
And
or
step up.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it seems, maybe for some people it seems like a difficult thing, but not really. It's not difficult. Look at the Civil Rights Movement. Look at the Civil Rights Movement, and I'm not saying by any means.
Now's the time for this to take. I mean, it's such a public thing. Carolyn, would you say that we have the Watts case, we have this case? Is it time to strike now while the iron's hot?
Yeah, I mean, we have so many cases that we can say that about. In every case, we say, we can't let this happen again. We have AJ Friend, and we have Malia, we have, so many. We have this little girl now in Utah, and another little girl that just, her mother just confessed to killing her, 3 years old in Utah. And it just goes on and on and on. There's something dreadfully wrong with the system.
Oh, yeah, the system is broken. There's no doubt about that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. The system sucks.
Corrupt part of individuals, not everybody, but I mean, it's societal, but it's also individual. So it takes a village, but it takes individuals. So I'm willing to talk to anybody about that.
Yeah, you know what? I think you are onto something. It's kind of like this grassroots, you might not be able to change the system, but you can do your part.
Right.
And if you do your part, you can encourage other people to do their part. And eventually, 1 leads to 10, 10 leads to 20, 20 leads to 40.
That's in systems thinking, that's called the butterfly effect.
Exactly, a movement. It's a
butterfly moves to one side of the world. It creates the whole sociologically.
No, I agree with you because the system is so painfully broken, especially when we look at this case.
There's another call.
Yes. Hi. Who's on the line?
Hi, I'm Christiana.
Hi, Christiana.
Hi, I would just wanted to kind of give like a perspective about the system within itself. I, as a child, grew up in the foster care system, and I can tell you it's extremely flawed. My mom was strung out on methamphetamines and heroin, and there was incidents of physical, sexual abuse in the home. And my brother, my sister, and I were taken away 35 times.
Wow.
Removed from home from a social worker in Nevada before they finally terminated my mother's parental rights.
Wow.
So, I just think that there are things that they can do to better serve, children in the system.
Okay, in your opinion, what needs to change
Um,
from your
hold on,
experience?
hold on 1 second. Can you just give me just a second?
35 times. Wow. Whoa.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think what needs to change is they need to have a better game plan when it comes to returning children back to parents. They need to have a better system in place because right now, as it stands, I mean, there are so many children that are in and out of the foster care system. A lot of times, they're just being returned right back to that same abuse. Because
Can I ask you a question?
Go
I
ahead.
need to interrupt you. Can I ask you a question?
No, go ahead.
When it came time, 35 times. Wow. I'm floored by that.
Yes.
When it came time, how old were you? From what age to what age?
I was 7, my brother was 6, and my sister was 4.
Okay.
And they did not terminate my mother's rights until I was 12.
Wow. So 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
So, and that was going from foster home to foster home, place to place.
Yeah. Bounced around.
It
Okay.
was
So the question.
bounce around.
So the question I have for you: at any age
Yeah.
between ages 7 and 12, when they asked you about being reunited with your mom, I assume you expressed.
There was a complete expression of no, and I mean we don't want to be reunited with her. She had a husband that was doing all the abuse.
Wow.
So it was not, something we wanted to do. And then like when I was young and we would express our feelings to my mother about the abuse, she would say, "Oh no, he wouldn't do that to me. He wouldn't do that to me. He loves us."
So total denial on mom's part.
Absolutely. And unwilling to accept the consequences of the actions that both of them have incurred.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's
So
not just.
you didn't feel listened to at all by the caseworker, correct?
Not
or the
at
social
all.
Worker?
Not at all. In fact, we went through several
Hello, you
social
live
workers.
there. You have to live with those people, and they're not listening to you.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So it was like 1 minute, you have one caseworker, and then that caseworker's with you for a couple months, and then you get switched off to a brand new
when you get to a point where you're trusting them and comfortable, they give you a new one.
Yes.
Yeah, the system really screws up, right?
Right. And I think the longest caseworker I ended up having was about 2 years. And that was, she was a great caseworker. That lady actually listened to us and felt like she had a responsibility to us, to the kids that she was.
So she was serious about doing her job.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
Finally, luckily, we were put in relative placement with my grandfather. But there's so many things that kids go through in that situation. And there's a lot of things that, state workers can't necessarily solve. They can't necessarily do everything.
Yeah.
Some of them really want to do something for those children, and their hands are tied.
Yeah.
And
that's because of the system. And that's
Absolutely.
because of the system.
Well, it's also because of how many resources they have. And you also have to think about the little bit, like there's not very many placements for children.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys. I just wanted to weigh in. And
God bless you. God bless you. Because, wow, 35 times.
May I just say, before
I'm
you go,
floored by that.
Oh, before you go, Linda wants to say something.
I just want to say, I think you really are an example of how a child communicates. Your voice wasn't heard. And so were there people outside of the social worker that maybe if we were sensitive and tuned in, we could have looked at, you could have said, this is happening to me, help me, that you might have gotten some help outside of the system? I'm trying to think of ways external to that.
I had school teachers and things of that nature that made reports, like the caller was talking about, I'm not sure what her name is, I'm sorry, but she was talking about, mandatory people who make the reports, like teachers, school nurses, doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Those people need to be recognized as people who are viable resources, because they know the signs of abuse. They know when a child is being put through things that they should not be put through. And they should be more trusting, honestly, with those people who are making those reports. Because at the end of the day, you have to think about the fact that they are with those children, through 5 days a week, basically, So there's not really much that they don't see and that they don't catch. Children will show signs of abuse.
To believe a child, to look for it, to value the people that are in places of responsibility. And how do you value them? Paying them more, recognizing them more, educating them more. I mean, what?
I guess it's more of educating them, valuing them. Yes, paying them more would be a great option, but just, I guess, basically opening your eyes and not closing your eyes and shutting yourself off from, the actual, it's a blog.
There was a campaign a while ago called the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the MAD campaign. And one mother who lost a child because of a drunk driver killed her daughter, right? Mm-hmm. And so she had this, over time, they made this great big development nonprofit organization. And that was such a successful communications campaign that people started changing their behavior and not letting their friends drive drunk or,
absolutely,
safety belt.
Absolutely. So, awareness is the key.
Awareness 100%. Campaign. That's right.
Could I jump in?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but you had you were called 35. Your mother was called 35 times on, and they left you with her until age 12.
No, they left me. I was 7, and it started when I was 4. The calls and things of that nature. They did not finally remove me from my mother's care until I was 7 years old. So it was like, what they have in Nevada is they have this place called Child Haven, which is basically like when they remove the child from the home, instead of distributing them to a foster home, they distributed them to this place that has like different cottages set for boys and girls. And the children stayed there in the respite care until the parent appears before a judge, and then the judge will make a safety plan or a case plan, things of that nature. And they'll say, okay, it's okay for the child to either return back to the home and we can work through this and the social worker can keep coming and doing their checks and things of that nature, or they can make a decision to remove the child, and at which point that child will stay at that center until they have an open home for the child to be placed. Now, like me, my brother, and my sister, as siblings, they really wanted to place us together. So we ended up staying in that facility for quite some time, about a year, before they finally found a setting that we would all be placed together. And sometimes they're not able to do that. So they split up siblings, and it's a sucky situation, because then it's like you only get to see your siblings like on weekends or, when a scheduled visit is available. So those are, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay. So from 4 to 7, 35 times, and you were, I am so sorry.
Yes. And it just, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was a teacher, and I've had to call, and you wouldn't believe how quickly the teachers get crucified for calling in on suspected child abuse.
Yeah.
It's like we betrayed the parents' trust, and
right.
You get treated like.
Well, I think the important thing about it was that the teachers were completely adamant on removing us from that unhealthy and unsafe environment. So after so many times of these reports going in, they finally have to say at one point, okay, we have to open our eyes and we have to take a big look at this perspective and find out what is really going on, because they can't just leave things like that unsettled, and they cannot leave questions unanswered.
Can I just insert one key word? What you're talking about? Is this Jenna P? Were you the teacher, Jenna? Is it Jenna?
Yes.
Anyway, a lot of this is about one key word: power. Who has it? Who doesn't? How
That's
can
right.
people who have it use it to help the people that do not? So as a teacher, if I get persecuted because I turn in a child that I think is being abused, then we have to have somebody with power backing up the teacher, which could be the principal, which could be the board, which could be the community, which could be the state. It is all who holds the power, and how are we going to get it to people who don't have it? So I'm going to hang up and let you guys talk about power. And I'm sorry, everybody, the stories are sad, but we can do something, I believe.
Right.
Thanks.
Have us think of some good ideas.
Thanks for calling in, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Linda. I also want to say, you were mentioned how they were trying to make sure that you and your siblings stayed together.
Yes.
I also have.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
I adopt only sibling groups.
That's awesome.
For that reason.
That is so awesome. Yes, because siblings get ripped apart, and it ends up being a awful situation. And I can't express how there's such a need for homes needed for foster kids. There is such a need out there, and honestly, in today's society, there's not a lot of people that are willing to stick their neck out to help these kids out anymore. It's not the same as back in the older days. People were more considered, I guess. They were more apt to stick their neck out for a child. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, these days people want to mind their own business, and they really don't want to get into somebody's business when it comes to that.
I'm not very good at minding my own business when it comes to children.
Right. And I think that it's so sad that's the case with the way that this all went down. I feel bad for Miss Amber Page, because I feel like had she been helped with some of those resources to be able to push forward and break away from it, like being able to get, job placement and a stable home and things of that nature, it was almost as if she felt trapped, that she was unable to do anything, to help her children. And I think her self-esteem was not down because of all of it. And I just feel like, if you have a parent that's willing to do the work and willing to put forth the effort, why not try to help get those resources out there for that parent to be able to make a positive impact on not only their lives, but their children's as well.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, watching her, sorry, the wind is the fan. The baby just went to sleep, so.
Yes.
But, watching Amber's testimony,
yeah.
And when if I could have reached through the screen and hug her, I would have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't like the look that her ex-husband was giving her either during the testimony.
Me either.
These stern, disgusting, vile looks, almost as if it was like, I can't stand you for sitting up there and telling the truth. And it was just, I felt this unnerving.
If you had looked in his eyes, though, he had this
hatred.
Yeah,
hatred that man had for her was oozing from him.
Yeah.
It was oozing.
Yeah,
and I felt
horrible
for her, because she had to sit there while he looked at her that way.
Yes, yes. And it was just like, you could tell that how uncomfortable she was, from the looks, because, when people are in abusive relationships, before, maybe she felt like she had to look to him to be able to answer a question and feel like she could speak freely. And
I was beaten for
fear.
11 years, and let me tell you, I knew every look my ex-husband had to give me.
Yes, and
Every look.
Yes, and you could definitely
she was
fear in her.
reliving it. She was reliving those looks.
Absolutely.
She was reliving that.
Stutter and look down at the floor because it was like this.
Yes.
I've been free from you. Stop looking at me that way. You're never gonna look at me like that again. It was
right. And when he was giving her those dirty looks, the hesitation sometimes that you could see that she was just like, she had to take that gasp of breath in.
Did you see her swallow? Did you see her stop and close her eyes and like swallow? Like, I'm safe. I'm okay here.
Yes, she had to keep.
Did you see that?
Yes, because she kept having to reassure herself that nothing was happen to her at the end of the day.
And she kept apologizing to the judge like she was doing something wrong because she had to.
The apologizing. Oh my God, oh my God, this girl is PTSD. This girl
she has
flashbacks with this guy burning holes in her right now.
I think the fact that they made her talk about her daughter with her husband now, give the birthday, stuff like that was just
the buffering. The buffering.
Having to re-go through all of, and having to re-go through all of those incidents.
I'm so familiar with that feeling. I'm so familiar with that feeling of, oh God, there he is. I've ran into my ex-husband in public with one of his many wives after me. He's had 3 wives after me in 8 years. And I've had those burning looks.
Okay.
And
I have to butt in for a minute. It's really hard to hear everybody when everybody talks over each other.
Sorry.
And there's background noise and something, so you have to put your chat on mute like I am when someone else is talking, and then try to let someone else finish.
Do that, Carolyn?
There should be a little phone icon somewhere on your thing that you can click and it'll put you on mute.
I don't see a phone icon.
I'm on my regular.
I'm on a keypad.
Okay, you don't see a mic icon or something?
No, honey, we're
on.
Do
you see anything?
Okay. I've got a mute.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find mine.
Do you see anything that says audio?
I mean,
no.
I can put you on mute manually, and I don't know how you come off, but in order for everyone to hear, we have to kind of let people.
I think I can do
I found the mute.
You found a mute? Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and say something really quick, and then I'll mute myself and let somebody respond. Does that work?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As they were saying about Amber's testimony and watching her and watching him, because they're doing a really good job of keeping a camera on him about how he acts and everything. And especially when she was on the stand, if looks could kill, she would have dropped dead right there. And I've been there. And I had to face my ex-husband in court on more than one occasion, and I got the looks. And like somebody said about, mentioning her current child and the birthday party and everything, it was like to ground her, because no doubt she suffers from PTSD. No doubt she is going through tremendous grief. She's probably medicated. I've heard some people in the forum say that she's faking her breakdown. No, this was a woman who walked in to do a job and everything hit her at once and she lost it. And I think if any of us could imagine being in her shoes, we would want to do what's right for our kids. And when facing the person responsible, we would probably do the same thing. So, anyway, I've been there, done that when it comes to facing my abuser. She wasn't just facing her abuser, she was facing the man who killed her children. I don't think it's fair for anybody to judge her. And that's all I need to say about that.
Okay, thanks. That's how we feel. And thank you for calling in, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the faking, I definitely think Tim is taking the insanity thing. I think that he's doing it just so that he doesn't have to face the death penalty, and I mean, it's sickening, and it's hard to believe that when people file for the insanity plea, we need 15% of cases in our judicial system filed with an insanity plea, and thank God that only 1% of those cases are found legitimately insane and sentenced as they're supposed to be.
I'm just going to interrupt you because it's really hard to hear you. There's like some, I don't know, do you have the radio? There's some background noise.
We're in the semi truck. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm listening to you driving down the road.
Oh, okay. So you have to put me on mute and maybe that'll be better.
Did you say
Yes,
you're on a
ma'am.
semi truck?
Yeah, I'm with my husband. He drives a semi for a living.
I think that's cool. You guys get to do that together.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. And we get to travel, so it's really awesome. And it's a fresh breath of air when you just get out and just see different places and explore.
Yeah, you can see the world. Well, the world. Yeah, you can see the world because, that whole highway to England. But you can see the world in the States. And I think everybody should do a road trip across country.
I agree. I definitely agree. Well, ladies, I'm going to step off here and thank you for you guys'
I actually
time.
wanted to ask you something again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I'm sorry, because of how many people were on, you're the one that was taken out of your home finally.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
you okay? The place that you were talking about in Nevada, was it like an orphanage or was it a kind of not group home but just a safe place? Was it?
The way that I would
safe?
describe it, absolutely. The way that I would describe it would be like we had a place in the West Volunteers of America. So it wasn't really like an orphanage. What they did was they set up 7 different cottages within that same little circle, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like there's a circle with 7 different houses there that house up to so many children, and some of these houses were for boys, and some of the other houses were for girls, and they separate them by age. So we would have ages, baby to 10 in the like young girls part, and then once you hit 10 to 18, you were in like the teenage type cottage, and the same goes for the boys as well. Hello.
Yes, I think I put Jen on mute because I unmute her.